I'm a die-hard Pokémon fan. I've played nearly every game in the series, many multiple times over, and yet I've never completed the most popular challenge run for the main series titles, the Nuzlocke. I've tried many times through each generation, and I've never failed, but I get bored in the middle of each run. So, I had to decide how I could make this attempt much more interesting. And that's when I decided on using a randomizer, a program that would change nearly every aspect of any main series Pokemon game of my choosing. Now, in my favorite game in the series, Pokemon SoulSilver, all Pokemon encounters, trainer rosters, types, abilities, move pools, TMs, items, and just about everything else you could think of changing has been changed. Now Pikachu is a flying type, but the flying type gym leader Falconer can have any Pokemon regardless of its type. Just as a reminder, the 3 core rules of the Nuzlocke are that if a Pokemon is knocked out, it's treated as dead. You can't use it anymore. You can only catch the first Pokemon you encounter on each route. If you knock it out, you're out of luck. And you must form an emotional attachment to each of your Pokemon by giving them a nickname. That way, when your Pokemon dies, you're going to feel as much pain as you possibly can. But to tweak the difficulty in different areas, I've included some additional rules as well. The set battle style means I can't switch Pokemon when my opponent does. The duplicate clause allows me to catch the second Pokemon on a route if I already own the first Pokemon I encounter. The shiny clause states that I can catch any shiny Pokemon I find, even though that probably won't happen aside from the red Gyarados. Items like rare candy aren't allowed. I have to teach every move a Pokemon tries to learn through level up, and I can't use any gimmick Pokeballs, only the ones with a straight catch rate. To start off the game, Professor Oak explains what Pokemon are, and I don't really get the purpose of this explanation, especially in this game. He's either explaining what Pokemon are to a 10-year-old who's lived in a town filled with Pokemon his entire life, or someone who bought the game and probably already knows what a Pokemon is. When the game actually starts, my mom explains to me that I can put items in my bag and use my phone to call people. Wow, I never would have thought to use either of those items for either of those things. After that, she lets me know that Professor Elm has something to ask of me, and I'm off to meet him in his lab. At the lab, Elm gives me the choice of 3 Pokemon to start my journey with, and out of these 3, I will never not choose Cyndaquil. This line is my favorite line in all of Pokemon. So, given that it's a hedgehog, I nicknamed him Spines, and learned that he is a dark-type kleptomaniac. Then, I headed out to run an errand for the professor. While on my way to Mr. Pokemon's house to pick up a very rare egg, an oddly athletic old man greeted me, gave me a tour of Cherry Grove City, and handed me his shoes, which granted me the ability to run. And just outside the city, I learned that in this reality I've created, Swinub is poisonous.
Oh, he has Poison Point. Uh-oh.
After many trips to the Pokemon Center to avoid the only inevitable thing in life, I finally made it to a house. Not Mr. Pokemon's house, though, just some random guy who gave me a basket to keep apricorns. Thanks for baiting me, Nintendo. After even more run-ins with poisonous pigs, I finally and barely made it to Mr. Pokemon's house, where I got an egg, met up with Professor Oak again, and in a complete stroke of luck, got Spines healed. Immediately after leaving Mr. Pokemon's house, Professor Elm called to say that someone had broken into his lab and stolen one of his prized Pokemon. With his rare egg in tow, I headed back to the lab. On the way there, I ran into a very rude kid who had a rock-type Totodile, and a couple of thief attacks later, it didn't stand a chance. I found his ID lying around, and he got very upset at me when I saw his name. Surely it isn't anything embarrassing. When I returned to Elm's lab, the cops mistook me for a thief. Even though I got this rare egg for him, Elm just stands by as I'm interrogated and very nearly arrested. Another resident of the town, Lyra, acts as a character witness and I'm let go. But Elm still says absolutely nothing about the situation. I tell the cops that the guy they're looking for is named Silver, I just can't get used to calling him anything else, and they're on their way. After the cops leave, Elm still pretends like nothing ever happened. He goes on to say that I could be the next Pokemon champion, and you know what? That actually sounds like a good idea. Off to Violet City, where I'll get my first gym badge. On the way out, Lyra and her Aerodactyl catch a Bulbasaur to show me the proper process of catching a Pokemon. She gives me a few Pokeballs of my own, which are almost all wasted on a Wynot, a literal punching bag, which I named after the weakest character in Punch-Out, Glass Joe.
This Joe is a gender-neutral name. Yes. Just have to do it this way. Alright, so we have Glass Joe.
This is where I learned that leveling up Jo is going to be an absolute pain because her only attack has a base 20 damage, and her attack stat is barely enough to do anything at all. I also learned that Magikarp is so much better in this world than our own, but it still gives next to no XP.
Slash. That's a move. 5 experience. That wasn't anything.
I caught a Swinub of my own and named it after Ice Age Perry the Platypus. And I learned that not only is it poisonous, but it is also vulnerable to poison. Man, I love randomized abilities. Moving on, I beat up youngster Joey, who didn't say the funny thing about his Rattata, or in this case his Zubat, and all of his friends on the route as well. Before catching a flying-type Pichu, I named Thunderbird. A ton of level grinding later, and I found myself in Dark Cave where I caught a Psychic-type Rattata, which I named Speedy Gonzalez, a name which I'm sure won't be considered problematic by the woke Twitter mob in 5 years. Finally, I made it to Violet City, where the first thing I did was visit the school and made a group with no members for no reason. Why did the teacher of the class want me to do this? Upon reaching the Pokemon Center, I met an actor named Primo, told him that he's cool, and he gave me 3 eggs that I hope will come in handy later in the run. A Mareep, a Wooper, and a Slugma. But for now, they're for emergencies only.
So I think that Mr. Primo is a serious mister. Praise dry skin. For sure.
At last, I made it to the Violet City gym and found out that the gym leader, Faulkner, would only battle me if I assaulted the sages living in the tower behind the gym. Inside the tower, I caught a Spearow named Gabone, in hopes that she can one day be twins with Kenya, the Spearow you get for free near Goldenrod City. Just as a side note, Spearow was holding the TM for Sacred Fire, which none of my team can learn yet, but I'm hoping to use at some point. I just find it kind of funny that what is normally a legendary exclusive attack was just lying around on a CD held by a little bird. Gabone almost single-handedly wiped the floor with all of the sages in the tower. Meanwhile, I happened upon a broken item that will give extra XP to any Pokemon holding it.
A lucky egg. Shoot. That's insane.
When I got to the top of the tower, the Elder, aptly named Elder Lee, schooled the kid from before, telling him that he would never be strong unless he treated his Pokemon well. Silver called the old man a loser before teleporting out of the building. I challenged Elder Lee, and he stood no chance against my team. He handed me one of the only TMs that didn't change, allowing me to have some light and dark caves. I taught it to Glass Jo, because she isn't being useful anyways, and left. Thunderbird made quick work of Faulkner's formerly flying-type lackeys, and I thought it would be funny to put Speedy, who knows Ice Punch, up front, pretending that Faulkner himself still specializes in ice types. Faulkner's first Pokemon was Togepi, a preview of things to come, showing me the moves that my future Togepi will learn, and nearly sentencing Speedy to death. I was very worried going into Faulkner's second Pokemon, a Clefairy, which I had previously encountered and believed was a Dragon type. But when I used Ice Punch, I got a crucial freeze, which allowed me to whittle down Clefairy's health, switch to Thunderbird, and knock it out for a lot of XP. Faulkner congratulated me on my victory and gave me the TM for Cross Poison, which I'll save for later. I realized I don't want to use any good TMs early in the run and run the risk of losing the Pokemon I taught the move to. Elm called me and said that after trying everything, he couldn't get his darn egg to hatch, so he thought he'd leave it with me. Yeah, I sure do love running errands for this guy, even after he nearly let me get arrested. So, with a full team, I left Glass Jo in the box and picked up the egg, and headed out of Violet City, where near the exit I met a kimono girl who may or may not have been stalking the egg. Now, on my way to the second gym, what types of Pokemon will I discover? What Pokemon will Bugsy's roster consist of? And when will I make my first fatal mistake? All questions to be answered in the next episode of Reggie Plays Pokemon SoulSilver, so stay tuned.